Testing. Test 1, 2. Okay, everyone. Let's start the what if. What if Yamcha learned the Kaioken? Part 2. 1 month has passed since the last what if, and in that time, Yamcha has undergone several training exercises, while Tien has already learnt the Spirit Ball almost completely. After all, in comparison to the Kaioken, it was a rather simple technique. Now, as Yamcha wakes up on King Kai's planet, he walks outside to find King Kai already waiting for him. Yamcha says, "Okay, King Kai, I'm ready for the next training exercise." But King Kai shakes his head. "There will be no more training exercises. Not for me, at least." Yamcha's eyes widen with excitement. King Kai was really going to teach him the Kaioken after all this time. King Kai took Yamcha aside and started to teach him the basics of the Kaioken. Afterwards, he gives Yamcha a demonstration, shouting out, "Kaioken!" King Kai's aura turns red, and Yamcha felt his power nearly double. King Kai then powered down and nodded to Yamcha. "That's it. That's all you needed to know. I could have taught you sooner, honestly, but I was not sure you'd be able to handle it. So I postponed it a while giving you exercises to help you progress and prepare for the Kaioken. With all those exercises under your belt, you should be able to use it on a basic level rather soon. By the end of the day, maybe, in the best case scenario." After that, Yamcha spent the rest of the day trying to mimic King Kai's energy, and combining that with all the information he had learned. And by the end of the day, once you know it, Yamcha shouted out, "Kaioken!" and his aura erupted. He could feel the pressure of his own power surging within him. Yamcha maintained it for only about 10 seconds, give or take, before powering down and gasping for air. He laughed with excitement and joy. He had worked so hard and finally achieved his goal. He shouted out at the top of his lungs, "I did it! I learned the Kaioken!" King Kai nodded. If he keeps this up, he might be able to surpass even Goku's use of the Kaioken. Yamcha spent the remainder of his days on King Kai's improving with the Kaioken. With a dead body, he could use it almost as much as he wanted to, needing to take short breaks in between in addition to a very light amount of sleep here or there. During one of his sparring matches with Tien, King Kai talked to himself a bit. They're about the same height, around the same power level, and have trained together a lot. I bet they could use that technique. It's only a matter of convincing them to teach it to these guys, though. When the Namekian Dragon Balls reset, Yamcha was surprised to learn that Goku was alive. But for whatever reason, he didn't want to seem to come back to Earth anytime soon, which meant Yamcha would be coming home early. He waved everyone goodbye and promised Tien that he would keep up his training. Once revived, he almost fell in the river, but stopped himself partway down, and then rushed over to Bulma. Bulma was happy to see Yamcha again as they hugged each other. "Bulma, I'm so happy to see you. Oh, and you too, Krillin. Man, you feel so much stronger than the last time we met." Krillin nodded. "You too, Yamcha." Yamcha then looked around for a moment before asking, Hey Bulma, where's the spaceship Goku trained on?" Bulma pointed to an empty plot of land in frustration. She told Yamcha that Vegeta had taken it after he learned Goku was not going to come back to Earth. Yamcha was upset with this. "Aw, come on, I wanted to train in it. It worked wonders for Goku, and I bet with these weights it would work even better for me." Bulma laughed and told Yamcha she could build him a new one, and rather easily, in fact. As long as she didn't have to connect it to a spaceship, she could have the gravity room up in about 2 weeks. Yamcha was ecstatic. So much so that he picked Bulma up. "Thanks, Bulma, you're the best." It would be another 6 months before Goku came back to Earth. That meant 6 months to train. Bulma got the gravity chamber up, and when she did, she gave Yamcha a small tour. "Okay, Yamcha, this room is equipped with movement sensors. If it detects you unmoving for more than about 5 minutes, while the gravity is increased, then it will automatically shut down and immediately send me and my dad a message. It can go up to 100 times gravity, just like Goku's spaceship." Yamcha looked around and nodded. "Yes, this is perfect." Bulma laughed and walked out of the room, saying, "Well, I can see you want to play with your new toy, so have at it." She shut the door behind her as Yamcha examined the gravity controls. Seeing as King Kai's was 10 times gravity, Yamcha thought he might be able to go up to times 30 even. He tested it out, and boy could he feel it. Immediately after, he felt the gravity increase massively, and with his training weights, it was even more intense. "I can get some real training done in here." Yamcha continued to train and even tested out the Kaioken, trying to push it that little bit further every other week or so. While this was going on, Piccolo felt Yamcha's power increase and thought to himself, Could I have been wrong? Could they really catch up to me? No, of course not. On the other hand, Yamcha does have the Kaioken in his back pocket. Who knows what he can do with a technique like that? Piccolo contemplated this a bit more, growing ever more curious by the day. Yamcha trained over the 4 months as the Namekian Dragon Balls reset, with Bulma keeping him in line and making sure that he didn't overwork and accidentally kill himself again. Then the Dragon Balls became active once more. With their new wishes, they brought back Tien, Chatzu, and transported the Namekians to a new planet, everyone aside Piccolo and Kami. Yamcha ran up to Tien and gave him a solid high five. "Yo, Tien, how have you been?" Tien said, "Fine, Yamcha. Nice to see you too." Yamcha nodded and complimented Tien on his power increase. Tien looked at Chatzu. "That's partly thanks to him." Tien revealed that after Yamcha had left, King Kai started teaching Chatzu new things, such as how to make weighted clothing. Chatzu was soon able to surpass King Kai and increase Tien's weights even further than King Kai ever could. Yamcha was amazed and asked Chatzu to give him some heavier weights as well, to which Chatzu happily obliged. He was happy to show off these few tricks he learned while he was at King Kai's. It was not as impressive as the Kaioken or Spirit Bomb, but it was still something. After the little get-together, Tien flew off stating that him and Chatzu wanted to eat some Earth food again. Yamcha nodded. He did remember King Kai's meals being rather bland and tasteless compared to the stuff on Earth. Yamcha then returned to his training. "Oh, hey Piccolo, did you come to join me at my training? I was just about to start." Piccolo grumbled. "Yeah, something like that, yeah." Piccolo's mind had been going back and forth with itself for months now. Piccolo's mind had finally snapped and just decided to challenge Yamcha to a sparring match. Yamcha, of course, agreed. This would be a good chance to test his skills. Things started slowly, with Yamcha and Piccolo both in their weighted clothing. Of course, Yamcha's weights were much heavier than Piccolo's. However, it became clear that Piccolo was vastly ahead of Yamcha like this, so they both decided to toss their weighted clothing off. This slightly lessened the massive gap between the two. Piccolo's power had barely increased at all, while Yamcha's had nearly doubled. Piccolo at this point was thinking about discarding his training weights altogether. Despite this one-sided power increase, Piccolo was still in the lead. Eventually, he got frustrated and just said, "Come on, use your Kaio-ken already. It's clear you can't beat me without it." Yamcha smirked and said, "Sure thing, Piccolo. Only the best for you, friend." Kaio-ken! Piccolo was taken aback for a moment as he felt Yamcha's ki double. Yamcha lunged at Piccolo, and Piccolo was clearly having more trouble than normal. However, with superior skill and still yet superior power, Piccolo was able to bring Yamcha down with a solid kick to the gut. "Is that it?" Piccolo asked. Yamcha wiped some blood from his mouth and said, "No, not even close. Kaioken times 3! Piccolo was actually put on the defensive for a moment after this. Yamcha even landed a wolfing fist that sent Piccolo into the wall. Piccolo spat out some blood. "Fine, I guess I won't hold back anymore." Piccolo lunged forward, but Yamcha blocked his incoming punch with both arms before landing a solid uppercut. Piccolo stopped himself before hitting the roof and ran at Yamcha again, but only hit an afterimage. "Wait, isn't that Goku's move?" Yamcha said, "Yeah, and it's always something I thought I could do, but never really tried it until now." Piccolo turned around and immediately went on the offensive again, only to have a small ball of ki hurled at him. "Spirit Ball!" Piccolo barely dodged it before jumping at Yamcha once again, before remembering, "Wait, doesn't the Spirit Ball..." He turned around to see Yamcha's ball of ki flying at him once more. Piccolo dodged it again. "Not bad, Piccolo, but not good enough. Spirit Ball times 3! Suddenly, Yamcha's Spirit Ball turned red and split into 3 separate orbs. Piccolo narrowly dodged them for a few moments before one managed to hit him. After he was thrown off his balance, the other Spirit Balls kept landing direct hit after direct hit until Yamcha crashed all 3 into Piccolo and blew them up on contact. Piccolo stood there afterwards. "Is that it? Can't say I'm surprised. Kaioken or not, there's no way an Earthling could catch up to me." Yamcha was furious. He had trained for almost a year to get this far, and Piccolo was just dismissing all of his hard work. Yamcha shouted out at Piccolo in anger. He shouted that Piccolo was wrong, that with the Kaioken, he could reach Tien's level, he could reach Piccolo's level, he could even reach Goku's level. Piccolo grinned. "Then prove it." Yamcha gritted his teeth and shouted, "Kaioken times 5! The room was coated in red, and it was not from an increase in gravity. No, it was Yamcha's aura. The orb subsided until it was concentrated around Yamcha. "You want me to prove it? Fine!" was the last words he uttered before Yamcha lunged right at Piccolo. Piccolo tried to block, but he was too slow to react in time, as Yamcha landed a solid hit that sent him flying. Just before Piccolo hit the wall, Yamcha appeared behind him, hitting him with a spinning kick. That kick sent him into the opposite wall. Yamcha then lunged at Piccolo with immeasurable speed. All Piccolo could see was Yamcha's palms glowing with a bright orange color as he shouted, "Neo Wolfang Fist!" Yamcha landed a seemingly endless combo as Piccolo was forced further and further into the wall, until eventually the combo ended with a double palm strike. A strike that sent Piccolo completely through the wall and out into the sidewalk. Yamcha stood, gasping for air before looking at Piccolo. Piccolo was barely able to pull himself up off the ground. If Yamcha had continued that combo for even a second longer, he might be unconscious right now instead of barely pulling himself up off the ground. Yamcha looked at his hands, and back to Piccolo. I won? Yamcha, seemingly forgetting about his fatigue, jumped in the air with glee. I won! I beat Piccolo! Kaioken is amazing! However, his joyful celebration was interrupted with a scream. A scream that came from right below him. He looked down to see Bulma standing right there. Yamcha immediately stopped his celebration and meekly floated back down as Bulma started to lecture him on how long it took to build the gravity room and how she'd have to repair it now. Piccolo slightly floated into the sky, accepting his defeat while clutching his right shoulder. Piccolo turned and started to head for the forest, but when he looked back for a moment, he met Yamcha's gaze. Yamcha nodded and said, "Piccolo, that was one of the best fights I ever had." Piccolo grunted, but nodded, before flying away. Bulma turned to Piccolo's direction and started yelling at him, but he was already gone. Meanwhile, on the other side of the planet, deep within an old dojo, Tien dropped a pile of planks he was carrying. Was that Yamcha's energy? Tien smiled. I think he just beat Piccolo. Well, what do you know? Guess I better step up my training. Tien looked around and picked up the planks he dropped. But first, I better finish fixing up this dojo. I can't have my future students living in a rundown building. Tien would go on to train with Chatzu. Chatzu not only learned how to make weights, but also how to heal and communicate over long distances. His abilities would be useful for Tien's training, and Chatzu was just happy to be helpful for once. Having said that, I think it's about time for me to end this video, so good luck with tomorrow and every day after.